Hello and welcome to another episode of the Immigrate Canada CIC News podcast. My name is Monty, and as regular listeners will know, I've spent the last 25 years promoting Canadian immigration all around the world. And I'm here to spread the message that immigrating to Canada is actually pretty easy and very straightforward as long as you have the right information. This is why I made a best-selling guide called Canada Made Simple. It's available all around the world through Barnes & Noble, Amazon and all great booksellers at less than $30. I can absolutely say this is going to be the best $30 you're going to spend in this entire expensive process. You're going to find out exactly how to make your own application straight from the experts. You're going to save literally thousands on so-called migration agents and lawyers' fees, and even if you are planning on using an agent or a lawyer, then find out about the process in detail so you can ask them the right questions at the right times and make sure that your agent is on point. There's also a ton of things you can do yourself to save loads of money on lawyers' fees and to help speed up the process. I cover all aspects of moving to Canada, such as express entry, federal skilled worker, federal skilled trades, Canada experience class, work permits, spouse visas, student visas, and troubleshooting an application. And before we move on, you can find out more at canadamadesimple.com. Today we're going to look at specifically how to immigrate to Canada from the United States, or how to immigrate to Canada from the US. So this is going to be a summary of what Canadian immigration pathways are available for United States citizens, from temporary residence through to permanent residency, PR, family sponsorship, or simply getting permanent residency on arrival in Canada. Now, the best thing about moving to Canada from the United States, either temporarily or permanently, is that Canada and the United States are obviously part of the CUSMA, the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement, which makes it much easier for United States citizens to live and work in Canada. So if you are in the United States or a United States citizen and your ultimate objective is to secure Canadian PR or permanent residence, then the great thing is that you've got a number of options available depending on your individual unique circumstances and your overall long-term goals. So obviously, if your goal is permanent residency and citizenship, then you're going to have a lot of questions around this. And for those answers, head over to canadamadesimple.com, where for free we have all of the information available. This means that actually you don't need to spend money on a expensive so-called migration agent or an ultra expensive Canadian lawyer. You simply don't need to. These things are designed to be able to do yourself as long as you have the right information and can take the right actions at the right time. So if you're immigrating from the United States to Canada, the first thing that you'll need to really decide upon is if you're going to pursue one of the economic class visas or the family class visas. So if you don't have close family in Canada, then you're going to have to look at the economic class immigration programs for Canada, of which there are many. So if you are looking to come to Canada from the United States to build a career and a life, then the program requirements are going to look at your educational achievements and your assessments, as well as previous work experience, occupation class, language ability. It will also play a role, which does seem a little bit strange sometimes, but is a really good way of gaining those extra points to do an English test, especially if English is your first language, or French test, especially if French is your first language. So what are the most popular ways that people use, or popular visa pathways that people use to immigrate from the United States to Canada? Well, number one, at the very top of the tree, are study permits and postgraduate work permits. Okay. Number two, as we said, is via the CUSMA agreement. Number three, via temporary foreign worker programs and international mobility program initiatives. Very, very popular. Number four, express entry. This express entry route we have covered extensively in other different podcasts. Do have a look at the links in the transcript below for direct links to those explanations and those podcasts as well. Okay, the next up is Provincial Nominee Program. Lots of United States citizens use the PNP, or the Provincial Nominee Program, to immigrate successfully to Canada. And then last but not least, you have the family sponsorship route as well. So one of the things people ask me is they say, hey, Monty, how do these study permits and postgraduate work permits actually work? And the answer is always very, very straightforward and very simple. If you want to study in Canada, you need a study permit. And in order to get a study permit or a study visa, you have to make an application after you receive your letter of acceptance from a Canadian academic institution. And usually this is after they've either accepted you and you've paid your school fees, or a deposit or a percentage of those school fees in advance. Now, the great thing about study permits is that they allow you to live in Canada. You can work part-time during the school year and full-time during any scheduled academic breaks, such as the Christmas break or the Easter break. And the other great thing about the Canadian study permit is that if you're a mature student and you have a family, then you can decide as a family that you're going to move to Canada on a study permit. Now, how this works is that either yourself or your spouse may decide to enroll in a university course. This could be an undergraduate degree of 3 years or 4 years. It can be a master's program. It can be a PhD, or indeed it can be an undergraduate program leading to a master's, leading to a PhD, which would of course really extend the amount of time you would be able to be in Canada on that study permit. Now, the person attending school or the academic institution, as we previously said, they're allowed to study in Canada and work part-time during school terms and work full-time when those terms have ended and it's a period of break. Now, interestingly, the other partner, the other spouse, now they're allowed to work full-time in Canada, which is exceptional. Okay, children are also allowed to attend education in Canada as well without extra charge, which is kind of unique when you're looking at lots of different other immigration programs available all over the world. The study permit really is pretty holistic and an absolutely good, solid, viable way of getting you and yourselves over to Canada. So what happens when the period of study ends? This is where it switches on post-graduation work permit. Okay, so what the post-graduation work permit does is allow the initial holder of the study visa to live and work for a further 3 years in Canada after their course has finished. Now, obviously, during this time, the spouse or partner can continue to work full-time as well, and children can continue to go to school. So, what are we actually doing throughout this process is building up direct Canadian work experience. So on the one side, you having gone to college or university in Canada, you're going to come away with a Canadian qualification, okay, which is a huge tick when we start to look at express entry and permanent residency. Second of all, your husband or spouse or wife who's already working out there is building up their Canadian experience. Okay, so they're able to then make an application under the Express Entry and Canadian Experience class, potentially. If that doesn't work out, what the study holder or the study visa holder is actually doing once they then have their post-graduation work permit is, again, they're building up their direct Canadian experience as well. So, they've got then Canadian qualifications, 3 years direct Canada work experience. Again, that's going to open up a lot more good, solid, viable immigration pathways for permanent residency and citizenship, including the Canada Experience class and lots of provincial nomination programs as well. So, taking a few little steps back then, how to apply for a study permit? Well, there's certain immigration hurdles that you need to overcome in order to apply for that study permit and to be accepted. First of all, the application that you make to study in Canada needs to be from what's called as Designated Learning Institution, a DLI. Now, most colleges and universities throughout Canada are already designated learning institutions, DLI, and really this criteria is in there for your protection. Because obviously over the years there have been many reports of less than honest institutions springing up and opening up in Canada in order to take advantage of the study permits and post-graduation work permit route. Designated learning institution is partly for your protection and partly for the protection of the Canadian government as well. Now, the benefit of being a designated learning institution, of course, is that most of the DLIs, most of the courses at the DLIs obviously qualify you for that postgraduate work permit, which we discussed. So number 2, the CUSMA, the Canada, United States, Mexico Agreement. This was previously known as NAFTA and makes it exponentially easier for United States citizens to live and work in Canada. If you can come to Canada on a CUSMA-based work permit, obviously your Canadian employer gets to skip over or fast forward through the Labour Market Impact Assessment Test, so the LMIA, which can be both a lengthy and expensive process. So there are 4 categories then of CUSMA work permits. Okay, the first one is for professionals. Professionals have to be qualified to work in one of approximately 60 targeted professions. And for a full list of those professions, head over to CanadaMadeSimple.com. So they have to have their pre-arranged employment in Canada in an occupation, obviously, that clearly matches their qualifications and experience. Next up, CUSMA also do intra-company transfers. And on a CUSMA intra-company transfer, you must be transferred to Canada on a temporary basis in order to work for either a branch, an affiliate, or a subsidiary of an already existing United States employer. You have to continue to work in that capacity, and the capacity has to be considered technically like executive level, C-level, managerial, or indeed something that requires exceptional specialized knowledge. Okay, next up, traders. So a CUSMA trader, they have to really show an intention to carry out significant trade of goods or services between Canada and the United States and vice versa. So the trader, as it is, must be employed in a supervisory or C-suite or certainly executive capacity. And again, they have to have clear duties that involve essential skills. Next up, investors. CUSMA investors must demonstrate that they have made a significant investment in either a new or existing Canadian business, okay, and that they're seeking entry to Canada to develop and clearly direct that very same business. Work permits in the CUSMA investor category must be granted to employees of the primary investor who can be considered essential staff as well. So what happens if you don't fit into any of these categories and you're still a US resident or citizenship in another country? What are the work permit options going to be for you? Okay, number 1, temporary foreign worker program and international mobility program. Sounds like a bit of a mouthful, actually very, very clear and very straightforward. Let's first up look at the TFWP versus the International Mobility Program, being the IMP. Major difference between the two is this need for what's called a Labour Market Impact Assessment. So, with the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, Canadian employers must first complete what's called a LMIA process. This is a document that proves where the Canadian government have said yeah or neutral that there will be a positive or neutral impact to the Canadian labour market if the employer proceeds and goes ahead to hire that specific foreign worker. Okay, employers often have to demonstrate or show that they've advertised the position for a certain amount of time and clearly that there was no local or domestic worker available to fill that role. Right, so the mandate of the TFWP really was to plug the holes in the Canadian labour market. Although, on the other hand, the IMP, the International Mobility Program, that's more about expanding Canada's economic, social and cultural interests, because the real difference between the TFWP and the IMP is that those on the IMP do not need to apply for or be granted an LMIA. Okay, so TFWP, definitely the employer needs a labour market impact assessment. On the IMP stream, no labour market impact assessment required. So why is that? That's because the IMP work permits are usually based on bilateral or existing agreements such as that CUSMA. Okay, another example would be the global talent stream, which has a massively expedited, only 2-week, 14-day processing standard, and offers a great pathway for Canada for previous H1B holders in the United States. The TFWP and the IMP are clear examples of how to come to Canada temporarily from the United States. Although obviously there are a number of immigration programs available for those who want to skip that temporary status and go straight for permanent residency, as thousands of United States citizens do each and every year. First up, express entry. Express entry for United States citizens looking to immigrate to Canada. Express entry it's not a visa class in its own right. It's best to think of it as an online application management system for 3 clear Canadian immigration programs. Number 1, express entry for Federal Skilled Worker Program for United States citizens. Okay. Number 2, Federal Skilled Trades Program. And number 3, the Canadian Experience Class. With the Canadian Experience Class, the CEC, being pretty much the top express entry program for candidates who are already living and working in Canada, because one of the key eligibility criteria for the CEC is that applicants need to have at least 1 year of Canadian work experience in a skilled occupation. But then lots of Americans say to me, "Hey, Monty, I don't live in Canada. I haven't worked in Canada. Can I still use the express entry system?" Well, absolutely. You simply have to look online and find out the right information, because that's going to direct you and show you that in order to apply for the Federal Skilled Worker Program or the Federal Skilled Trades Program, you don't need direct Canadian work experience. And you can convert your existing qualifications from outside of Canada into their Canadian equivalents through WES or Red Seal. And again, for a full explanation of World Education Services, educational credentialing, and of course how to emigrate as a skilled tradesperson, do head over to CanadaMadeSimple.com for lots of good, free further information. Now, for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, you're required to have 1 year of continuous skilled work experience. Okay, a Canadian language benchmark of 7 in English or French, and to have your education credential. Okay, so your conversion of your qualifications in your home country into their Canadian equivalent. You also need to be able to score 67 out of a possible 100 on the Federal Skilled Worker Program points matrix. Now, don't get confused. There are 2-point scores involved in express entry with federal skilled workers. 1, in order to make an express entry application, you have to score at least 67 on the Federal Skilled Worker Program points matrix. Now, this is separate from the comprehensive ranking system, the CRS points, which are used by express entry. Okay, so first of all, you have to score 67 points on the Federal Skilled Work Program in order to lodge an express entry application. Once you're in the express entry pool, you are assigned a comprehensive ranking system number, which you can increase by taking your English again or doing more qualifications, etc. Now, it's based on this CRS score, dictates when you will receive an invitation to apply for that actual Federal Skilled Worker Program visa. Okay, for tradespeople, for Federal Skilled Trades Program, slightly different. Okay, you're going to need at least 2 years full-time work experience in an eligible occupation and lots of other criteria. Key to this is that you have to have a valid job offer of at least 1 year in Canada, or hold a certificate of qualification in a skilled trade issued by a Canadian provincial, territorial or federal authority. So this is key. If you're coming on the federal skilled worker program, you don't necessarily have to have a job offer. If you're coming on the skilled trades program, there are two options. One, have your express entry lodged and receive a job offer. Or number two, have your express entry lodged, don't have a job offer, but do have what's called a Red Seal challenge or a successful Red Seal challenge. Okay, so Red Seal are the trade regulator. They're the people who issue trade qualifications. So in the United Kingdom, it might be NVQ. Okay, and South Africa, it's going to be Red Seal as well, and everything else in between. So this is where you take all of your qualifications in your home country with your under your home kind of authority, and you go to the Canadian Trades Authority, Red Seal, and you say, look, I'm a really well qualified plumber, for example, or an electrician or a welder. I've got my tickets, okay? I've got my wiring regulations, etc., etc. I've got my work experience. I've done my apprenticeship. They then look at all these things and say, yeah, actually, you know what? You have got a significant amount of experience and you're fully qualified in your home country. So we can invite you to do a Red Seal challenge, and that is essentially fast tracking you through the local qualification system. So you may be qualified as an electrician in your home country, and you supply all the details to Red Seal. They look at it, they go, "Yep, absolutely, you're a bona fide electrician. We want to bring you through, and we want to fast track you through the Canadian equivalent qualification by having you write one or two exam papers at some point." Very, very well trodden path, not entirely difficult, and very, very achievable to do on your own. Now, the interesting is, once you have your Red Seal, two things are going to happen. Okay, so first up, with your new Canadian trades qualification, you may well find that it unlocks lots of provincial nominations. Okay, so that's a very, very good way of securing the extra 600 points in order to move forward in terms of provincial nomination, through into your federal skilled trades visa. Okay, the second one is applying for a job. One of the key criteria for lots of highly skilled trades jobs adverts are you have to be Red Seal qualified. Okay, it doesn't matter where you're qualified elsewhere in the world. If you're an electrician in Australia, you're going to have slightly different qualifications and work on slightly different wiring systems and electronic systems than in Canada. So what happens is, in Canada, they say, actually, we only want Canadian qualified electricians. Same as in the United Kingdom, same as in Europe. So by having that Red Seal qualification, it allows you to apply for those roles. Now, given that trades are, there's a massive amount of trades jobs available, there's demand totally outstrips supply, the market is red hot, salaries are booming, everything's on an upward trajectory, then the chances of securing a job once you have that Red Seal in place are very, very high. And again, at CanadaMadeSimple.com, we can certainly assist you with giving the right information that you need to get through and get a successful federal skilled trades visa and provincial nomination. Okay, next up, direct provincial nomination. So there are two types of provincial nominee programs for United States citizens looking to immigrate to Canada. Number one, enhanced programs. These are aligned with express entry and base programs, and these operate independently of the express entry system. So lots of the Canadian provinces, they're able to have a certain amount of autonomy themselves over their own sort of local immigration policies. Okay, so enhanced programs, they sit alongside express entry, but base programs, these are ones which are designed, implemented, and processed by the provinces themselves. So enhanced programs pull their candidates directly from the express entry pool. Okay, so as a United States citizen looking to immigrate to Canada, if you're in the if you're going after an enhanced program, you need your express entry done, dusted, and in. if you then receive a provincial nomination through one of the PNPs, you get an extra 600 CRS points, which is going to boost you through that express entry process into the ultimate permanent residency visa pathway as well, in the very next express entry draw. So as soon as you receive that, pretty much the next express entry draw happens every couple of weeks. The next one that comes, your name is going to be on the list and you're going to receive that invitation. Now, base PNPs, so base provincial nominee programs, they work a little bit differently. And these base PNPs for US citizens are a slightly different option, okay, for people who are not eligible for full express entry. In order to immigrate through a base PNP, you need to make an application direct to the province. And then if you're eligible, or then if the province agrees, then you're going to receive your nomination. Then, with that nomination in hand, you can then apply for permanent residency to the federal government. Wow. Next up, family class sponsorship. If you're a United States citizen looking to immigrate to Canada and you have a spouse or other family members in Canada already, then you can start looking at the family class sponsorship route. So who can be sponsored? Well, relatives like brother, sisters, aunt, uncle, obviously spousal, husband, wife, partner, doesn't matter. Absolutely can be covered with a family class sponsorship. Although, do remember that people who can't be sponsored are people who are considered to be criminally or medically inadmissible. Now, spouses or common law partners can be either sponsored from inside Canada or in the United States. And to be eligible, you have to be over 18, obviously, and in an ongoing, genuine, mutually exclusive relationship with a Canadian citizen or permanent resident who can demonstrate that they can financially support you via Form 5532 and any children you may also have. Canadian citizens can sponsor from abroad, but permanent residents cannot. Interesting. So if your partner has gone down the full Canadian citizenship process or is a natural Canadian citizen, they can lodge that application from anywhere in the world. But if you have permanent residency, or your spouse has permanent residency, and not quite Canadian citizenship yet, then the application has to be made from within the country. And also, there's an option to immigrate from the United States to Canada on family class sponsorship for those who perhaps want to wait out the process a little bit in Canada together. And this is called the spousal open work permit as well. The other interesting family class sponsorship for United States citizens looking to immigrate to Canada is the Parents and Grandparents program, the PGP. That one was always a bit of a mouthful. The PGP is a pathway to permanent residency for parents and grandparents of Canadian citizens. And, this program acts a lot like the lottery system that US citizens are going to be relatively familiar with in terms of their green card lottery. It works in the same way. This is where a very small number of applicants in the PGP program are invited to apply every so often. It's not great. The PGP does work, although lots of people who are looking to sponsor their parents or grandparents want a more robust and a more structured way of making that application. And to do this, it's via the Super Visa. Again, Super Visa, you can find a lot more information on emigratecanada.com or canadamadesimple.com. And I'm going to do another podcast directly on the Super Visa in a little while, so it may well already be live depending on when you have or when you're listening to this podcast. And again, do note that Canadians can also obviously sponsor their biological and or adopted children who are under the age of 22. Well, as I say, there's a lot to take in when looking at how to immigrate to Canada from the US. Lots and lots of different routes, as you would expect, being neighbouring countries as well, and also part of that CUSMA agreement. So, As I say, feel free to reach out to us at canadamadesimple.com. Have a little look. There's going to be plenty of free information there. And if you're confused at any point, there is a guide available which I've written. It's an international bestseller. I was amazed, but it is now and on the international bestseller list. And it's available through Barnes & Noble, from Amazon, from lots and lots of really good, reputable booksellers. And it's less than $30. I've explained everything in detail. It's probably the best $30 that you're going to spend, and obviously that is a shameless plug for my book. But I do hope that you that it provides some use to you, especially if you're looking to navigate this complex system on your own. Thank you very much.